Hello guys from Plant Reviews, today 12th of June and it is, well, we are in late spring obviously, and I will talk now about one of my favorite honeysuckles, the Japanese honeysuckle Lonicera japonica, also known as silver and gold honeysuckle. This honeysuckle is a plant belonging to the family Caprifoliaceae, together with all the honeysuckles. The species is native to Eastern Asia and is often grown as ornamental plant in several temperate countries, and actually in several countries to which this plant is not native, it is considered quite invasive. This is a twining vine and can climb up to 10 meters, so about 33 foot or more, and can actually is able to strangle plants if you are not able to keep under control the situation. So it's a wonderful plant in the garden, but you really have to be careful of where you're planting it and in pruning it. The plant is a vine, as I said, and has opposite leaves of a beautiful dark green, very shiny, and they're about usually 5 to 8 centimeters long, and usually about 3 to 5 centimeters in width. The flowers are very beautiful. They are very exotic, even if it's a so common plant. They are kind of double-tongued. You can see the petals basically are disposed as two main, sorry for the wind, I'm not able to focus very well, into units, a lower unit and a upper unit. The upper unit is bigger than the lower ones, with white stamens and pistil, the stems that the stamens end up with yellow anthers, while the stigma ends up with a green, you can see the green stigma at the end of the stigmatic projection. The flowers are not very big. They're about probably, I would say, about 4 centimeters in a little bit less than 2 inches in length, and probably I would say in well, it's difficult to talk about diameter because it's a very vertical flower. I would say it is about 3 centimeters, a little bit more than 1 inch in height, and probably 1 centimeter at the most in width. However, the flowers are really born in a profusion, as you can see. It is incredible the quantity, the masses of flowers that this plant can produce, and most important, the fragrance is amazing. It's a very strong fragrance that really fills the air, especially if it's not too much wind, and it is a very nice mix of sweet and citrusy fragrance. This plant blooms on the new year growth, so you can prune it ideally in early spring, so the plant has time to produce new shoots and blooming profusely, as I like in this plant because I really love the fragrance. The flowers, when they are pollinated, if the pollination is successful, produce a black berry that is ripened in autumn, containing a few seeds and about a diameter of 4 millimeters. The nectar from the flowers can be safely eaten, and this is the only really part of the plant you can safely eat, because the other parts are potentially toxic. Even if in the traditional Chinese medicine not only the flowers but also the dried leaves are used, I really wouldn't recommend to use them in your kitchen. One of the most famous cultivars of the Lonicera japonica is the variety Halliana. In the UK is called variety Halliana indeed, but in the US is also known as Hall's prolific Japanese honeysuckle, and this is indeed the Lonicera japonica varietas Halliana. The plant is can me I grow it as a climber, as you can see, to cover my fence with my other climbers, and however is also a pretty good ground cover as well. But again, you have to be very sure that you know what they are doing, because as a ground cover can spread easily for meters and it grows very quickly. Also, it is good for hedging as well. The propagation of the plant can be done by seeds, but also by cuttings as well. And the plants also spread very easily to side shoots. And this is another point to be careful about, because if you're not keeping it under control, you can find honeysuckle sprouting around basically from everywhere in your garden, and possibly in your neighbor's garden as well. The plant, as I said, is considered very invasive in some countries, especially in North America and New Zealand, where it is outcompeting native plants due to the fact that it is such a vigorous grower and spreads so easily around. The plant is semi-evergreen, loses most of the leaves in winter. However, again, it is a great plant, really, if you want to offer some support to the fence and to have pretty fast-growing fence cover or climbing plants. You can see that my plant indeed this is still the same plant and covered basically an area in my garden already of about I would say probably 6 meters, even if I am careful in pruning it. However, I like so much this plant that really I love to have it spreading around the garden, obviously as long as it's on the fence, and as long as doesn't really outcompete all my plants that are planted in the on the ground, because I love the fragrance, as I said. This is when you prune the plant, due to the fact that it is so invasive, it's very important that you dispose of the cutting of any part of the plant you don't want to replant it safely. Otherwise, if you just throw it away in natural areas, they might be that obviously they will put roots, these cuttings, and then overtake everything. If about the about companion plants for the honeysuckle, I would suggest to mix the honeysuckle, if you want to have a nice flowered fence or flowered area, with other honeysuckle variety that bloom in different times of the year. As you can see, I have some other honeysuckle that are just in bud or just just sprouting at the moment. This is the red world, you can see, is just blooming now. Or even nicer, if you want to find companion plants for the honeysuckle, you can mix it with clematis. I think the combination of clematis and honeysuckle is really gorgeous, because as you can see, you have these small, very fragrant flowers, white and pale from the honeysuckle, mixed together with the gorgeous big flower blooms of the clematis that come up in astonishing variety of coloring: purples, blues, pinks, and lilac. So I think it's a great mix of plants together. Another option obviously would be to mix with other fragrant plants that are very vigorous, such as the Trachelospermum. I have it, I have some, a plant there, even if it's not as vigorous as the honeysuckle. You can see how the honeysuckle and the Holboelia coriacea, another plant, have taken over. The Holboelia coriacea, the Stauntonia coriacea, is newly classified, is another great plant to mix with the honeysuckle, because it has a vigorousness really that can compete with the honeysuckle, and it blooms in different times of the year. The Holboelia blooms usually between late March and mid-April, while the honeysuckle blooms between late May and June, the whole month of June. So it's a nice combination of a beautiful fence completely green with fragrance, with fragrant flowers at different times of the year. Another option would be to mix with the honeysuckle with the jasmine. That is another plant that is really vigorous and also produce beautiful fragrant flowers. About the disease of the plant, usually the honeysuckle, the Japanese honeysuckle, is quite resistant to pests. Aphids and powdery mildew can be a problem in honeysuckles, but I found that the Lonicera japonica actually one of the most resistant to pests. Some other honeysuckles can be more sensitive, especially to the powdery mildew and the aphids as well as the black flies. You can see I have some honeysuckles, some buds of the red wort that were completely ruined by the aphids. However, really, I'm not sure why, but the Japanese honeysuckle is very resistant to pests at least in my conditions in Kent in England. So I have to say, if you live in the UK, probably this is if not the easiest, this for sure is one of the easiest honeysuckle, but I found that in my conditions in Kent, really this is the most vigorous of the honeysuckles, one of the most fragrant. If you're looking for an easy plant to grow in a garden, definitely the Lonicera japonica varieties Halliana, the whole Japanese honeysuckle, is one of the best choices. If you love fragrant flowers, again, is one of the best fragrant plant you can have in the garden. The only problem you can get, again, is that it can actually outgrow and outcompete other plants, so you have to be very careful in pruning this plant. However, I think is one of the definitely the must-have in a fragrant garden if you love fragrant flowers. When there is a breeze, you still can sniff the honeysuckles from meters away, and this is definitely one of my favorite fragrances I have in the garden, because it's at the same time sweet with some notes of citrus, so very fresh, not like sickly sweet as some flowers are. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time, hopefully. Bye guys.